Yeah, so kimchi is very trendy. People are putting it on their fries and which I'm here for, but you can't understand kimchi's full potential until you've made it yourself. And it's really easy, so there's no excuses. Hands down, kimchi is one of my very favorite OG fermented foods. Fermentation gang. It's typically made with various veggies like napa cabbage, daikon radish, green onion, and in my case, carrots. Its flavor is totally one of a kind, yet extremely versatile. You know, hence the whole kimchi fries and kimchi omelet and kimchi fried rice. There's all sorts of ways that this thing can be used. If you've had kimchi before and you like kimchi, then you need to know that it's incredibly simple to make and so much better when you do it at home, like many things. So without further ado, let's do this.
Now, this recipe is pretty simple, so this should go by pretty quickly. You're gonna start with one large napa cabbage head, which is about 2 pounds and 2 ounces, or 980 grams. And you're gonna slice that in half lengthwise. Then you're gonna cut each of those halves in half, sort of getting quarters, and then you're gonna cut each of those quarters into 1-inch wide strips. Now you're gonna take all that cabbage and place it into a large bowl and season it heavily with kosher salt. And when I say heavily, I mean I want you to over season that bad boy. It is okay, you're gonna rinse off the water and you're gonna wring out that saltiness, but you need it in order to pull out the excess water so that it ferments properly. Now you're just gonna squeeze and toss the cabbage in the salt. Make sure that you're squeezing the cabbage real hard. It's okay, you wanna bruise it up. And you're gonna let it sit for at least 30 minutes, but ideally about an hour and a half. While it's sitting, you'll notice that it releases a ton of water, which is a good thing. Now, while the cabbage is sitting, we're gonna cut the rest of our vegetables. So you're gonna start with one bunch of green onion, cut the root bottoms off, and then cut the green onion into 1/2-inch segments. Then you're gonna roughly julienne your carrots. Now, if you don't know how to do that, I'll give you a brief little tutorial. All you gotta do is cut the carrot into the desired length of the segment. So I chose about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches. And you're gonna cut that segment into little planks, and those planks are going to be probably about 1/8 of an inch thick. Once you have your planks, you're then going to cut the planks lengthwise with the same width so that you sort of end up with a long, skinny rectangle. Now, they don't really have to be perfect. You can see that mine are not. In my opinion, it's kimchi. You know, it's supposed to be like a rough chop. Just throw it together. Don't worry about it too much. And also, you can always just buy a mandolin that has a julienne attachment if you don't want to do this, which I will put a link below in the description. Oh, and by the way, this portion is going to be 2 carrots worth of julienne carrot, just heads up. Then you're going to peel a medium-sized daikon. You're going to cut that into sort of the same thing as the carrots, but much thicker, into sort of like baton-sized pieces. Now, you can also do a julienne with this as well. I prefer a little variance in texture, so that's up to you. Now we're gonna make our paste. You're gonna start by slicing a 2-inch segment or 82 grams of peeled ginger. Add that to a food processor along with 1 large Asian pear peeled and cubed, which will be about 250 grams, 6 cloves or 20 grams of peeled garlic, and a 1/4 cup or 60 milliliters of fish sauce. My personal favorite brand would be Red Boat. I'll put a link in the description for the one that I use. And then you're gonna blend that until it's as smooth as you can get it. It'll hit a certain point where it won't really get much more smooth, and that's okay. Transfer that paste to a medium-sized bowl and mix that paste together with a 1/4 cup or 52 grams of Korean red pepper flake. You can use a little more if you like. I actually ended up using about 1/3 cup and 65 grams, but my red pepper flakes weren't too spicy, so just be careful because it will get super spicy. Once the cabbage is sat in the salt, you're gonna drain it through a colander and then rinse it with water while squeezing at the same time. Rinse, toss, and squeeze until you've washed off the majority of the salt that's on the cabbage. It's okay if it's still a little bit salted, but you don't want it to be overwhelmingly salty. If your batch ends up too salty, it is because you did not wash the cabbage enough, so beware of that. Drain the water that you rinsed the cabbage with, and then add all the vegetables that you cut to the cabbage in a large bowl. From there, you're gonna add all of the paste that you just made to the vegetables, and then you're gonna toss to thoroughly and evenly coat with the chili paste. Now, you can use your hands with this. I used my bare hands. Not advisable, very spicy. You'll get a burny sensation in your hands, and if you have a problem with that, maybe wear gloves or just use a rubber or wooden utensil. Once the mixture is thoroughly and evenly coated, you're gonna pack that into a 1/2 gallon glass jar. or some sort of container that is large enough to fit them. Just make sure that it's glass. The problem with metal is that it reacts with the acidity that this is going to develop later on. That's no good, so you want something that's non-reactive. Then using a spoon or a wooden muddler, you're going to press down all that vegetable so it's as packed together as possible. You don't want any air bubbles in there, and if there's any juice in there, to get it to cover the vegetables. And then you're going to loosely cap it off. Make sure that you don't tighten it all the way down because it's going to release some gas. We don't want to turn this into a bomb. And you're going to let it ferment for 4 to 7 days. Now, I want you to taste it at day 4 and see if you want it to go longer. The longer it goes, the more acidic and the more sort of fermenty it's going to taste. So it just depends on how ripe you like it. The longer, the more ripe. I let mine go for 6 days. Now, you might notice along your little journey that there are little air bubbles becoming present, or it may start to bubble. That is totally normal. That is just the lactobacillus and various other good bacteria that are releasing carbon dioxide in there, and that's totally normal. Just keep pressing it down to keep that juice compact. Once your kimchi has reached the desired flavor point, you can then tighten the cap all the way and store it in the refrigerator. And at this point, it's good and ready to eat. It'll stay good in the fridge for a long time. I've had stuff stay in there for like 3 months. I mean, you're gonna eat it all before it goes bad.
All right, guys, and that is it. This recipe turned out perfectly, and it was so wonderfully hands-off. Like, I really didn't have to do anything. I just let it sit there. Kimchi was really high up on requests from all you guys, so thank you for that. I really appreciate you telling me what you like to see. You know, and luckily there are things that I like to make, so it works out. It's a symbiotic relationship. Is that right? Symbiotic? They would destroy me in the comments if I got that wrong.
Well, it can be sometimes beneficial.
It's okay. I'm just gonna say something else. I scratch your back, you scratch mine.
Oh, that's weird. I do not like how you said.
Okay, well then I just won't say anything.
Ew.
With all that said, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you next week.